Oh, good. The handyman finally showed up. She didn't say it to me. She said it about me. Just loud enough for the circle around her to hear. Just quiet enough to pretend she hadn't meant for me to. I stood there in the middle of that hotel lobby in my best shirt, boots polished since 6 that morning, and felt 64 years drop away until I was nothing but a foolish old man who'd wandered somewhere he wasn't wanted. The woman who said it was about to become my son's mother-in-law. I turned toward the door. I want to be honest. One foot was already moving. Then Darius appeared, pushed through the crowd, leaned into my ear, and said 4 words I didn't understand yet. Dad, trust me, tonight. I had no idea what was coming. Neither did they. My name is Raymond Cobb. Ray, to the people who know me. 64 years old, 32 acres outside Conroe, Texas, land my father worked before me. Pipe fitter and part-time cattleman. I followed him into the fields at 18, spent 22 years maintaining drilling equipment, retired at 55, and came home to vegetables, a few head of cattle, and a pecan orchard I still argue with every fall. Nothing fancy, all of it earned. My wife Lorraine was sharper than anyone I ever met, the kind of woman who could read a person in 5 minutes and be right about them for 20 years. We raised 2 children on that land. Simone, 31, married to a good man named Gerald, raising my grandson Theo in Houston. And Darius, 33, a civil and agricultural engineer, Prairie View A&M, full scholarship. Watching him cross that stage was the second proudest day of my life. The first was the day he was born. The third was standing at Lorraine's hospital bed while she squeezed my hand and told me our kids were going to be fine. She was gone 2 days later. Heart failure. 5 years now, and it still knocks the wind out of me some mornings. After Lorraine passed, Darius came out to the farm every single weekend. We worked mornings, ate lunch on the porch, talked till the sun dropped behind the tree line. He was consulting on irrigation and land management across southeast Texas, doing well, but more than that, he showed up. He was my son in every way that mattered. About 20 months ago, he brought a woman home, Vanessa Hartwell, Scottsdale money, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself but does anyway. Her father Preston ran a real estate holding company. Her mother Claire sat on charity boards and never said a word she hadn't rehearsed. Vanessa smiled through that first Sunday dinner, gracious, measured, nothing wrong on the surface. But Lorraine used to tell me, watch the eyes, smiles can lie. And when Vanessa's eyes landed on me, on my hands, on the pegboard of tools in my kitchen, I saw something I didn't like. An inventory. I told myself I was just being a protective father. I talked myself out of it for a year and a half. I visited the Hartwells once in Scottsdale, pool, guest house, a 4-car garage holding 2 cars I couldn't name. Preston shook my hand like something he was obligated to touch. Claire asked about farming the way you ask about a pity project, called it pastoral. Darius was happy. I kept my mouth shut. Then came the engagement dinner. 4 Seasons, Houston, 50-some guests. I was running late, cleaned up as best I could, walked in doing the best I could with what I had. And that's when I heard her. Oh, good, the handyman finally made it. Enough people heard it that a woman looked away fast. A man suddenly found something urgent in his drink. The room did that thing rooms do when discomfort passes through it like a current. I turned to leave. 64 years old, and still felt 12. Still felt like I didn't know which fork to use. Shame doesn't care how hard you've worked. It just drops you back into the smallest version of yourself and dares you to keep walking. Then Darius was there. 4 words. I stayed. I got through that dinner sitting with his engineer friends, decent people who asked real questions and treated me like I mattered. But every few minutes I'd glance toward the head table, and Preston would catch my eye and hold it a beat too long, like a man confirming a label he'd already filed me under. After the guests thinned out, Darius asked me to walk to his truck. We sat in the cab. He was quiet a moment, looking at his hands. Then, Dad, I need to show you something, and I need you to let me get through all of it before you react. He pulled up audio files, 15 of them, dated. He hit play on the first. Vanessa's voice, relaxed. Nothing like the woman I'd watched smile for 18 months. 6 weeks, Mom. Then I'm in. Once we're married, I start working on the property situation. Dad already has buyers lined up. Claire, unbothered. And if his father resists? Vanessa, almost amused. He won't. Men like that trust their sons completely. Darius asks him to sign. He'll sign. I felt the floor drop out from under me. My land sat inside a corridor. Montgomery County had quietly approved for a highway extension 18 months earlier. Most people didn't know yet. Preston Hartwell, with his real estate network, did. He'd calculated my 32 acres would be worth 8 to 12 times its current value within 3 years, and he'd built his daughter's engagement as the machine to take it from me. Darius had spent 3 weeks going back into that house, recording, photographing documents left open on Preston's desk. He'd found a preliminary sale agreement with my signature on it, forged, notarized with a stamp that would later prove fabricated, correspondence with developers, the whole plan, laid out and running. I couldn't speak. I just sat in that dark cab holding his phone, while everything I thought I knew rearranged itself. "What are you going to do?" I finally asked. He told me. Part of me resisted, my father's voice still living in my head. "Keep it between people. Don't make a scene." Part of me wanted to cancel it quiet, protect what was ours without lighting a match. Then I thought about Vanessa's voice, casual, planning the theft of my life's work like she was planning a weekend. I thought about Preston's hand on my son's shoulder that night, the pat that said, "She's your problem now." I thought about Lorraine and what she always said when I was about to swallow something I shouldn't. "Let the truth breathe," I told him. "I'm with you all the way." The next morning I met Devin, an AV tech friend of Darius's, who'd already agreed to help. They told the venue the projection setup was for a romantic photo montage, tipped the manager well, timed everything to the minute. The night before, alone in my hotel room, I put on the same suit I wore to Simone's wedding and looked in the mirror a long while. Thought about Lorraine, thought about my father and his father, 3 generations of early mornings baked into that dirt. Something settled in my chest. Not rage, clarity. The ceremony was set for 2 o'clock. I watched the room fill. The Hartwell contingent first. Preston chest forward. Claire in a dress that cost more than my truck payment. Darius stood up front in his black suit, jaw set, hands still. I knew my son. He was ready. Vanessa came down the aisle on Preston's arm in a gown that probably had its own insurance policy. Preston handed her off with a look like a man closing a deal. Claire caught my eye across the room. I held it and didn't look away. The officiant began. Someone up front started crying, the happy kind, or so they thought. Then it was Darius's turn. "Before I answer," he said, in a voice that reached every corner of the room without being raised, "there's something everyone here has a right to see." The screen at the back of the room lit up. The room didn't understand all at once. First confusion, heads turning. Then recognition, as Vanessa's own face and voice filled the space. "Once we're married, I start working on the property situation. Dad already has buyers lined up." Claire's voice. "And if he resists?" Vanessa again, that same amusement. Men like that trust their sons completely. I wasn't watching the screen. I was watching faces. A woman in the 4th row pressed a hand to her mouth. One of Darius's friends rose slowly from his chair. Claire Hartwell went the color of old paper. Preston was on his feet. "Shut that thing off. That's fabricated." The recording kept going. Preston himself now, leaning over his desk. "The corridor gets approved. That land triples. We need it in our name before the public survey. Vanessa, I manage the son. Preston, we manage the paperwork." A sound moved through the room, heavier than a gasp. People on Vanessa's side started standing, heading for the exit. A third clip. 2 women's voices in a restroom. "Vanessa, I don't know how much longer I can smile at that man, walking in looking like he came off a work site." Claire, laughing. "Just a little longer. After the wedding, Darius distances himself. We won't have to keep pretending." The room broke open. Vanessa was crying now, fast, like a switch had flipped. "Those are edited. Those are out of context. Darius, tell them." But Darius had already turned to face the guests. Voice level, almost frightening in its control. "Everything you heard has been certified by forensic audio analysts. The property documents bearing my father's signature are forgeries. This has been running for over a year." Preston charged toward the AV booth. Devin stepped out and locked the door behind him. The presentation kept rolling, Sale agreements, buyer correspondence, projected profits, Preston's name on all of it, dates that predated the engagement by months. Then a man in the third row stood, maybe 55, no performance about him. My name is Alton Burke. I'm an assistant district attorney for Harris County. I was invited here as a friend of the Hartwell family. He looked straight at Preston. What I've just witnessed constitutes evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud, document forgery, and theft by deception. I'm advising you not to leave this building. Lorraine would have loved that moment. Preston blustered. Claire wept. Vanessa tried for the exit and was quietly, firmly stopped by 3 of Darius's friends, who simply stood in her path. She didn't fight it. She sank onto the ballroom floor in that $1,000 gown and sobbed. Somewhere underneath everything, I know I was supposed to feel something complicated about that. What I actually felt was the weight lifting. 32 acres, 3 generations, 5 years of missing Lorraine, 18 months of swallowing something that tasted wrong, all of it releasing at once. Police arrived within 20 minutes. All 3 Hartwells were escorted out, Preston still arguing, Claire behind dark glasses, Vanessa with her veil askew. One of her cousins came to Darius in tears, saying she hadn't known. The catering sat untouched, the music still cued. Darius found me in the thinning crowd. Food's already paid for, Dad. So we stayed. Simone rushed over the moment she heard, Gerald at her side. We ate, put the music on, danced. Simone held my face in her hands and said, Mama would be so proud of you both, Daddy, and I had to look away for a second. In the weeks after, Alton Burke built the case. Forensic experts authenticated every recording and document. The investigation turned up what none of us had known. The Hartwells were drowning. The Scottsdale estate, the charity boards, the holding company, all of it propped up on debt and borrowed credibility that needed a steady supply of new victims. Preston had civil judgments in 2 other states. Claire had maxed 4 lines of credit. They needed our land because they were desperate in a way they'd spent years hiding. A woman named Patricia Vance reached out 3 weeks after the canceled wedding. She'd been briefly engaged to a Hartwell associate 4 years earlier. Same playbook, questions about her family's property, pressure for financial access, then threats when she pulled away. She testified. 2 more people came forward with the same story. A settlement offer came before trial. $300,000 and a formal apology, in exchange for dropping charges. Darius and I sat with it maybe 10 minutes. Then I said no. Not because the money didn't matter, it would have helped. I said no because Patricia Vance deserved to tell her story in a courtroom, because whoever would have come after us deserved not to. The trial ran 2 weeks. The defense tried to paint Darius as a vindictive ex-fiancé who'd fabricated the whole thing. It had nowhere to stand. You can't argue manipulation against your own voice on certified recordings. You can't argue forgery away when handwriting experts have already spoken. You can't argue coincidence when 5 people in different cities and different years describe the exact same sequence of events. Guilty on all counts. Preston, 11 years. Claire, 7. Vanessa, 9. The judge said something in her closing remarks I keep written on a piece of paper by my kitchen window, that the family's calculation, that dignity was cheap, that integrity could be outmaneuvered, that a man's worth was set by his address, was the precise error that brought them there. Darius came home to the farm after that. Not a retreat, a decision. He said the city had been him auditioning for a life that wasn't his, trying to impress people keeping score in a game he never agreed to play. He consults remotely now, runs the irrigation side of the property. 2 years ago, he married Tanya, a soil scientist from Huntsville who showed up to their 3rd date in work boots and has never once made me feel like furniture in my own house. They married here, under the pecan trees, 40 people who genuinely knew us. Best day I've had since Lorraine. Here's what I carry from all of it. The people who work hardest to make you small are usually the most afraid of what you represent. Vanessa didn't call me the handyman because she believed it. She said it because she needed to believe it. Needed me small enough that what she was doing stayed survivable to her, stayed just business instead of what it actually was. The mistake most people make with that kind of dismissal is turning it inward, asking what they could have done to deserve more respect. The answer is nothing. There was nothing to fix. The problem was never yours. What Darius understood, standing up there while that screen came alive, is that truth doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't need the right venue or the right audience. It just needs one person willing to let it speak. So I'll leave you with this. Is there a room in your life where you've been making yourself smaller to keep someone else comfortable? And how much longer do you plan on doing that? I'm 64 years old. I've got calluses on my palms, a pecan orchard out back, and a son who drives out for dinner 3 nights a week. I wake before the sun, work till my back tells me to quit, and sleep like a man with nothing to hide. That's the whole inheritance I was ever after. If this one landed somewhere real, stay a while. I'll be telling another.